Hey, what's going on, RC drivers? Welcome back to the channel. I know there's a bunch of you that have been waiting for this video. Today, we are finally going to check out the Tamiya Thundershot. A couple weeks ago, I posted an unboxing of this car and it got a lot of great comments, a lot of people talking about it, a lot of people reminiscing about getting into the hobby with this car. And I have great memories of this car as well, even though I never had one. It was released back in the late 80s, 1987, I believe. And I just remember looking through the magazines, looking at this buggy and wanting to drive one. And that's what's great about these Tamiya re-releases is those of us that didn't get to try it when we were young, we get to try it now. For those of us, or for those drivers who had one that got into it, maybe sold it way back when, you get to have one again. And I had a great time building this up. This kit was re-released back in 2005 as well. From what I gathered, they added the wing to it, and we're back here today in 2022. And I believe there are a couple of small changes. Again, that's something we could talk about in the comments as we reminisce about it and talk about the features that it has now. Let me get right into it. It is a full build-up kit. It does include a Hobbywing speed controller and the 540 Mabuchi motor. I'm excited that it has the Hobbywing speed controller because it has a LiPo feature, a LiPo cutoff feature, and it is a good speed controller. Now, the other cool feature about this buggy, beyond coming with the optional spoiler, is it is pre-painted from the factory. So, you know, the white and blue paint that you see here on the body comes from the factory like that. You still have to go and paint the driver and apply all the decals. But the body is also pre-cut, so that helps speed along the process of getting this thing assembled. And while we're talking about the outside features, let's talk about the wheels and tires on this. Love the Tamiya off-road spike tires. There's no foam inserts, but they're just a really neat looking tire. They go right onto the black wheels that you see with the tri-spoke pattern molded deep onto the inside of it. And then they have the adapter. They don't have a 12mm hex adapter. They have that 3-pin style of adapter behind the wheel, which is kind of neat. The wheel actually just falls right on. They have these little bumps that allows the wheel to fall on and key right into place, and then you put your lock nut on there. So kind of a neat setup. I just love seeing all the thought and design behind these cars. You know, they're just different. They're not like anything else that we see out there. That's what makes Tamiya unique. That's why people love to build these things and collect them, because they just have a lot of unique features. Love the large front bumper on here, even through the decals on the front, just for the full effect. Out back, we just have a small little Nerf bumper, and then on the sides, right below the body, there's some Nerf wings to protect the battery. Let me just flip it over really quick so you can see the bottom. Really simple chassis, tub style chassis design. The gearbox just kind of is your rear lower plate of the chassis. It's the gearbox, I know, but this is where the buggy's got to bottom out on the drivetrain. Pretty interesting setup. Up front here, you can actually see the steering rack, the twin bell crank steering. Actually, it's a swinging style of steering rack, just visible from the bottom, where today you see it up inside the chassis. All right, let me get the body off and we'll talk about some of the other inside features. I took some video along the way of the build so you can see what's going on the inside, but there's some pretty neat stuff here too. There we go, now we can see the chassis. Let's start off at the front here with the monoshock setup. I always thought this was really cool, the way they made this thing work. We've got equal suspension arms all the way around on this buggy, double wishbone style suspension, and then they've got these arms that go up to the monoshock and a sway bar to keep everything in check, you know, so it's just not flopping around as you're driving, but it just looks really cool, builds really well. This is the Type 2 CVA shock, and we've got the same style of shock in the rear, double shocks in the rear. I might as well show you guys both as I'm talking about the suspension, but really just simple setup. Metal hinge pins all the way around, no adjustability really on anything. They do have an option for the shock, so you could put dual shocks up front if you want, but I don't know, this monoshock, I think it's just gonna be fun to drive with. The tub chassis is a plastic, of course, and the drivetrain fits into it in the front, slides in the rear. And I do remember that if you do throw an aftermarket motor in here and smash into something really hard, these front tabs will break on the chassis. So just be aware of that when you're driving this thing. But inside the driveline here, we've got gear differentials, really neat setup, just the way the gear train lays out, steel propeller shaft in the center, and then steel dog bones, steel outdrive, steel axles on this. So it's a pretty durable setup. It does come with bushings throughout. That's kind of a given for Tamiya vehicles. You could go get bearings if you want to from Team Fast Eddie or from Tamiya. But they give you the greases for the gears, 15 tooth pinion gear, and that attaches to the included 540 Mabuchi motor, which is your standard Tamiya motor. Kind of wish they give you the torque tune one in this. That would have been really cool. But there is that hobby wing speed controller I was telling you about. The servo for the steering just drops down here on the bottom and has the Tamiya servo saver in there to protect the steering. They do have adjustable tie rods on it. I'm not sure if that's something new for 2022 or they had that before. Definitely let us know in the comments if you are aware. But it's a great build, guys. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to just taking this thing out for a rip. So let's head outside and have some fun. So lately I've been hitting up a local park that has a dirt mound in the parking lot, and when it came time to drive the Thundershot, I thought to myself, that is the perfect spot for some classic RC bashing. So I took the Buggy over there and I wound up having a great time with it. I wasn't sure what to expect really. I mean, come on, when you go and push down on the suspension, the rebound almost lifts the car off the ground. We got the mono shock in the front. We've got, you know, the same size tires all the way around on a Buggy platform. But when I put this thing down on the ground and pulled the throttle throttle. I was surprised at the acceleration and how quiet the drivetrain is on this. I may have built it really well. I spent some extra time on it, but it was very quiet and the top speed was respectable. You know, after my testing there in the park, I did top speed test it in my street here, and it goes about 18 miles an hour. If I go downhill on my street with the little wind behind it, it hit 21. So it's a pretty quick buggy. It's probably doing around 17 miles an hour the whole time you're driving it. And it definitely has enough speed to launch this thing off of jumps and that dirt mound that you guys saw. I was just having a great time trying to jump it every which way off of that jump, using it as a berm. I mean, I just had a great time with this thing, and it was flipping and going all over the place, and the landings were just not predictable at all. But I really didn't care because it looked really cool with all the dirt flying, and a lot of times, I would say the majority of the time, it landed on all four wheels. There would be some bounce here and there, but just a really fun experience. And this thing has a lot of steering, so when I was driving it up and down the dirt lot, I would go and just let off the throttle, maybe tap the brake a little bit here or there, and this thing would just pivot right around, which was really cool. And when I was driving this back home in my driveway, I noticed, you know, there's a lot of roll in the front of the chassis. There's a lot of dive going into the corner, and you know, that monoshock will really just plant this front wheel, this wide front tire, and want to whip this car around. So it actually had really good steering to it. It was just a great buggy to drive. It just brought back some cool memories of seeing guys running these you know, around at the local track where I used to race. There would be a ton of different Tamiya cars. Just awesome. If you had one of these back in 1987, you were cool in my opinion. If you picked one up in 2005, or if you're gonna pick one up now in 2022, you're not gonna be disappointed. You're gonna get that classic RC driving experience, and you're just gonna have a blast. Even with the build on this, really cool just to see all the details that Tamiya puts in their kits. Awesome, awesome drive. I highly recommend it if you want the classic four-wheel drive building experience and driving experience. All right, guys, let me know what you think about the Thundershot 2022 in the comment section below. Let us know if you're gonna pick one up as well. While you're down there, hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell. I will have links in the video description. Throw the video a like, and we'll see you back soon for some more RC Driver videos.